Grab your pitchforks. We're responding to national media on today's show. Bill Simmons, Stephen A. Smith tell you what they're right and what they're wrong about, correcting the record on these Phoenix Suns. We'll have some fun on today's show. Locked On Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a contributor at Suns.com, as well as Dime Magazine, and a credential media member covering these Phoenix Suns for the past 5 seasons. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen today and every day. Final week, stretch run. We are here. We are not going anywhere. We'll have a playoff series to preview next week, so scroll down, hit subscribe, support the show. That is the best way to do so. Today's show, guys, is brought to you by PrizePicks. Check out PrizePicks.com. Use the promo code NBA or go to your app store and download the app today. PrizePicks, daily fantasy, made easy. We'll start with Bill Simmons. He did his weekly show with Ryan Russillo. And you guys know I am not normally the type to take national storylines and react to them or really do much of any of that type of banter. But in this particular case, the Suns are in the news, and we're getting down to awards season, and that is affecting the dialogue here. We are getting toward playoff time where narratives get hardened and the best teams get talked about is really the best way to put it, and that's what's happening right now. And so Bill Simmons, his weekly show with Ryan Russillo, Sunday nights, I'm sure many of you listen to it. I almost every single week tune in. And they did a segment in which it turned into a draft, but really it was just a discussion of a bunch of guys who basically may end up not being on their team past this season who might surprise you. And some of them were very much well-worn names, almost the surprise part, not even super realistic. Jimmy Butler after the flare-up, Damian Lillard they talked about Donovan Mitchell, who's been in the news a lot, Rudy Gobert, etc. But very quickly in what became a draft of these types of guys, they got to Deandre Ayton. And if you actually think even further back, a couple weeks ago, Bill Simmons was on this Ayton trade thing. Brought Ayton up, I think, on an episode with Zach Lowe, talking about potential Anthony Davis trades, and said, the Monty connection, the Suns might want to mix things up post Chris Paul, get another superstar in there, and that Ayton would be in the trade. And he kind of threw in because no one knows what team he'll be on next year, as like an afterthought. So Simmons has been on this thing for a while. He said in this most recent episode that he thought they sniffed around last summer when they were not able to come to an agreement on an extension, and they sniffed around at the trade deadline for DeAndre Ayton trades. Now, I'm not just taking what Bill Simmons says at face value and assuming he has some sort of plug-in on the Suns that none of the local media has, because it's not just Bill Simmons saying it. I don't know about last summer, but we can assume any smart team, if they're in negotiations that aren't going well with a player, they would at least entertain the notion of trading that player. So that seems totally believable. And then at the deadline, there were a bunch of people saying that the Ayton rumors were real. You'll remember specifically that it was Domantas Sabonis who was being talked about. He, of course, ends up a Sacramento King. But Ayton being in trade talks is nothing new. And so I'm not just going to take Simmons at his word. It seems reasonable. That draft pick in the segment that they were doing did not come as a surprise. But let's return to the Sabonis point. Let's entertain the idea that there is some weight to these rumors, that Simmons is onto something here, that the local media and national NBA guys who said at the time of the deadline, hey, the Suns are poking around with Ayton. They're looking at Domantas Sabonis. Let's treat all of that as real, and let's dig into it a little bit, because if you buy into the fact, very much up in the air, of course, what might happen between now and then, but if you loosely buy into the fact that the Suns see Ayton as replaceable, we can disagree, we can agree on the levels to that, but that's the fundamental point here is the Suns seem to think that they can continue to succeed with somebody else at center and more of their resources allocated elsewhere. I did a massive rant around the deadline about Sabonis specifically, because I think targeting him fundamentally misunderstands it, and like in a way that I truly didn't even believe that it was real. But I've heard from Pacers reporters that it seemed real, and we heard so much talk here locally that it was real that I guess I'll buy it. But the defense is the part of Ayton that's least replaceable. And so Sabonis coming in instead, and of course, there's so many versions of this. You could have Sabonis in a trade and then also still sign another big man. Maybe you keep JaVale McGee. Of course, it's not 1-for-1 straight up, but it never quite made sense. And this latest round of sort of rumors, if they still are interested in a different world where maybe they get a sign and trade for Ayton of, a couple of role players and a couple of picks or something like that. What I don't get is why they think that they can win without Ayton, with a backup replacement. Because here's what I mean. You look around the NBA, there is actually not a lot of teams. It used to be, right, you would say, okay, well, in the NBA, the way that it works, especially during the Warriors dynasty, with them not really having a center, Draymond was their center, you would look at it and say, okay, there's not a real good reason to invest so many resources in a big man in the modern NBA. It just doesn't make sense. You should have the talent on the perimeter, and the center can be anybody. It can be replaceable. The Warriors can go in and win a title with JaVale McGee. The Lakers can go in and win a title with JaVale and Dwight Howard, because their true centers were Draymond, Anthony Davis, these hybrid types of guys. That was the argument at the time that the Suns drafted Ayton. Actually, it was, hey, Luka, Trae Young, whoever it might be, these guys, this is the way the league is going. You need to have one of these, and you don't need to have a Deandre Ayton. Well, what happened since then is the league changed pretty dramatically, because the Warriors are not the team to beat anymore. And around the NBA, you have Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic and Karl Anthony Towns and the Cavaliers playing a bunch of big men. You do not see anywhere in the NBA really a situation where the best teams have no center, have a truly replacement level center. The Grizzlies, Steven Adams, he makes basically the same amount of money that DeAndre Ayton will be making on this contract, $20-30 million. The Warriors are a unique situation because of Draymond. The Mavericks are probably the Mavericks and the Hawks, who of course are run and operated their offenses by Luka and Trae, the players I was just referencing. With Dwight Powell and Clint Capella, that's probably the closest that you're really going to get to that type of system where the center is cheaper, not as expensive of a player, not as integral and involved a part of their offense, doesn't really ever get the ball in his hands, but is still effective on both ends of the floor. Dwight Powell, Clint Capella. The Nuggets, of course, Nikola Jokic. Going down the standings, the Jazz, Rudy Gobert, the Timberwolves. You have Karl Anthony Towns, the Pelicans. You have Jonas Valanciunas, who is also a $20 or so million player. The other really good one, aside from the Mavs in the West, is the Clippers and Ivica Zubac. Ivica Zubac is basically the best version of that. But you are at such a premier level of talent on the perimeter for the Clippers to get by playing somebody like Zubac as their center. If you're telling me that the Suns can put together a perimeter roster, a perimeter depth chart as good as the Clippers is, with star power like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and then Reggie Jackson and Norm Powell and all these other extra guys, Terrence Mann, Luke Kennard, to throw out on top of that, then of course I'll get behind that idea. But you just don't have a lot of good examples. The Heat, Bam Adebayo, he's a max player. Bucks, Brook Lopez, he's $20+ million. The Sixers, Joel Embiid. The Bulls, Nikola Vucevic. The Cavs, they have 4 big men on the floor. The Raptors, another one like the Clippers, where, yeah, they don't have a traditional center. But if you can get a roster like the Raptors on the perimeter, of course you give up that center because you have size everywhere and a bunch of talent at the 1 through 4. The other good similarity would be the Celtics, right? They have Robert Williams, who just got injured but has been playing incredibly, and he has a $12 million salary. The reason he has that salary is because he got hurt throughout his college career, throughout his early career. So he makes less money because of that. There is not an example of a team moving on from a center without having an incredible amount of perimeter talent and continuing to excel. Every team in the league has a center. You have to have an option there because Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, Bam, those are the best players in the NBA right now. You have to have somebody to answer that. Does not make sense that the Suns would be exploring an Ayton trade if that type of level of player is their answer. JaVale, Dwight, those types don't cut it anymore. That's my response to Bill Simmons. Let's get on to Stephen A. Smith and dip our toes back into the NBA MVP talk. First, though, guys, today's show brought to you by PrizePicks. If you're looking for a new daily fantasy option for the NBA, then you need to try the award-winning PrizePicks app. We love it here on the Locked On Podcast Network, and we know you will love it too. If you're an NBA fan, if you are looking to mix it up in your fantasy routine, or if you just love sports and you're looking to have some fun, it scratches that itch as well. Here's what you do: 2 to 5 players and an over or an under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. It's just you versus those projections. No pool, no head-to-head matchup, no tournaments. It's you versus the over or the under. You're making bets. You're picking players. It's that easy. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. PrizePicks is safe and offers fast withdrawals. And again, they have an award-winning app or the good old-fashioned way, prizepicks.com. The best part, in my opinion, is that you can do mixed sport entries. So you can do over or under. Let's say you love the NBA. You're going to hit one, basketball one. Let's say you go under on Anthony Davis points in the next game against the Suns, which we will talk about in the next segment, because you don't buy that he's even going to be able to stay on the floor, which would be a reasonable assumption. And then let's say you are really feeling good about opening day. You feel like you know what you're doing. You're going to go over on runs scored by the Los Angeles Angels. You're all in. Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani. Yes, over on runs scored by, let's say, Mike Trout. That's your lineup. Under on points by Anthony Davis, over on runs scored by Mike Trout, and that's it. You set your lineup, and when you use the promo code NBA, when you set your lineup, you will get $50 free when a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point, which of course they will. It's an exclusive offer available only to Locked On fans who use the code NBA at signup to get $50 free when a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point. That's PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. Today's show also brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports wagering info throughout 2022. Find all the latest sports developments, including this week's Masters Championships, where they'll have odds, podcasts, previews, analysis all week long. BetOnline, your continued source for sports wagering info, including live betting, esports, and the latest scores. Let's see here. I have WNBA odds, which I always love. I'll drop you some of this. It might not be good if you're a local Valley sports fan. I don't anticipate the Mercury will be where we want them to be, unfortunately. However, they're right in the middle of the pack, plus 500. The Connecticut Sun are the favorites, which I don't necessarily love. I feel like the Seattle Storm at plus 425. They've lost some of the, and no, here's the one. Washington Mystics plus 1,400. If that team is healthy, they are as good as anybody in there at plus 1,400 odds. That's what you can get at BetOnline, where the game starts. The other national storyline, the other national talking head that created a storyline for this Phoenix Suns team today was Stephen A. Smith, who on NBA Countdown on Sunday during the marathon of games on ESPN on Sunday said that he would vote for Devin Booker for MVP. And then he went on First Take this morning where Magic Johnson was a guest and doubled down, frankly, said that he should be under strong consideration and that he would vote for him if he was forced to go pen to paper right now. And the basically case that Stephen A. laid out was Booker is the best player on the best team, and he is a leader of this Suns team. He has produced at a high level for this Suns team, and that's kind of where he left it. Jokic isn't as much of a winner. Embiid has not been as much of a winner. Giannis, nobody is scratching where the Suns are in the standings, and that was sort of the crux of the vote. But what I found interesting here, more so than even Stephen A. saying that, because there's going to be people who vote for Devin Booker as the MVP. I mean, it's just a natural offshoot of how much attention he's gotten. I mean, I think we have one in Kevin Ray. I'm opening the vote right now. I don't know if Kevin Ray has one. Last year, he did not. Dwayne Rankin does have one. What's interesting to me more than anything else here is it opens the door for more Devin Booker love than I was personally anticipating. I felt like Booker would be lucky to get one homer MVP vote and that would be it. I thought maybe Kevin Ray or Eddie Johnson. It doesn't look like Eddie Johnson had one last year. Dwayne Rankin did not vote for Chris Paul last season. Dwayne had Chris Paul third. Actually, last season, two people had Chris Paul first. One was Dave McMenamin of ESPN, which is pretty interesting. He had Jokic second. And Greg Anthony of TNT and NBA TV had Chris Paul first and then also had Jokic second. But Stephen A. giving this much credence to the Booker case is pretty fascinating. I'm not going to relitigate the whole should Booker win it. And you guys, if you've been listening, you know where I stand on this. I don't think Booker's full season of production matches the other MVP candidates. I think he should finish fourth. If he got third, I wouldn't necessarily argue with that. I'm not somebody who really loves the Jokic case. I just don't really feel great about the idea of a player on a losing, a worse team winning, a team that's going to be fifth in the West. It doesn't feel great. We did it last year, and we're doing it again. I just don't. That doesn't sit right with me. I would probably vote for Giannis this year. I would probably go Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, Booker, and then maybe Luka, maybe Tatum. That's where it probably will end up. But I think what we should prepare ourselves for is that Booker could do considerably better than I had been expecting. If you expect, again, that there was a decent amount of Suns love last year, and they're even better now, somebody like Dave McMenamin, somebody like Greg Anthony, maybe they give their vote to Booker. Maybe Stephen A. gives his vote to Booker. Maybe you do get Dwayne putting Booker first. Maybe more Suns people have votes this year. I don't know that for a fact, but maybe they change every year. This is not locked in stone. That starts to get you to be 4, 5, 6 Booker first place votes. Now, I don't think that will be enough for him to win. I don't think anybody should be expecting he will win, but it's surprising to hear. And that's my take on the Stephen A. Smith side of things. I don't have an inflammatory, I'm not going to go head to head with Stephen A. and wouldn't go well for me anyway. And my audience can pale in comparison to his. And I'm totally fine with that. I do a Suns show. He does First Take. It's not what this is about. It would be absurd for me to start a fight with Stephen A. on my YouTube channel. What is interesting is that it opens the door for more votes for Booker than even I was guessing. And I did think there would be some. Let's close things out with a look at what is at stake in tomorrow's game as the Suns host the Lakers with the chance to blow them out of the playoffs. We'll get to that in a second. First, though, guys, today's show brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of trim packages, makes, and models for your vehicle, it's difficult, if not impossible, to wander into a local chain auto parts store to get everything that you need. So why endure pointless or intimidating questioning? Hey, is your Hyundai, is it an LX or an EX? Wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer and then choosing, of course, only their partner brand or whatever they happen to have in stock with little to no care at all for your wallet. Well, all of that could be fixed if you shop at Rock Auto. Save time and money by going to Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business. They've been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and they've been doing it online for over 20 years, which means they get the point of efficiency and cost effectiveness. Prices are reliably low for everybody. You don't have to be certified mechanic or any of that. You don't have to be ordering in bulk. You're going to get a cheap, reliable price when you go to Rock Auto. So go explore their easy-to-use website today. Type in the car that you need, type in the car that you have, scroll down to the part that you need, click purchase, and it's at your door within days. So go to rockauto.com right now, see all the parts available for your car or truck, and write Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box? So they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. The Suns host the Lakers tonight, and it is worth revisiting what led to this moment. And I'm not just talking about Suns versus Lakers, and I'm not just talking about this past couple of years. Here's where I'm going. What year was it? I want to say it was 2012 or something, but you'll remember the moment. I don't have to tell you the year. Chase Field, Los Angeles Dodgers, clinched the division, a division that the Diamondbacks are a part of. They weren't going to win it that year, but it wasn't some random team in some random division. It's the Dodgers. It's the NL West, and the Dodgers were clinching it, and they went and took a swim in the center field pool to celebrate and just rub all over all the Diamondbacks fans that they had won the division. Then last year, you have a Suns-Lakers series where the Lakers are the defending champions. I went back and looked. Game 1 spread, Suns by 2, but that, remember, they were at home. I'm trying to find the series odds, and I cannot. The model at CBS predicted that the Lakers would win Game 1 99 to 66 times out of 150 or whatever that is. Let's see. The series odds. I know the Lakers were favored. I'm just trying to rub in how crazy it is. The Lakers were minus 250 at DraftKings that season last year to win the series. The Suns were plus 190. So that puts into perspective, as a 7 seed, how much of an advantage the Lakers were given to win that series. The Suns were not given any legitimacy despite being 52-20. Suns go out and win Game 1 and, of course, win the series. Fast forward to about a month ago, the last time, 3 weeks ago or so, the last time that these teams played. And you'll remember LeBron scored 30, 40 points, and the Lakers got blown out by 30. But the reason that blowout was inspired is because Anthony Davis decided to go back in time, reminisce a little bit, live back in the past, and make the case to media that the only reason the Suns won that series, that they were so much of an underdog in by the odds makers, was that Anthony Davis himself got hurt. Mind you, he is now still hurt and continues to be hurt, has been out most of this season. So being hurt is not exactly a shocking development for Anthony Davis. I'm not wishing pain on him, but it's a fact. He is rarely available lately. Then the Suns go out and beat him by 30, 40 points. At home, That place was rocking, as it has been for the most part the past 2 years. And now you are here, where the Lakers are 3 full games out of the 10 spot, the final play-in slot in the standings, with 4 games to go. They would need an incredible amount of fortune to get into the 10 spot as things stand. But the Suns can basically end their season by winning. I already went into the conspiracy direction on the last show, talking about how the Suns arrested people on Sunday night against the Thunder, knowing full well that they might be able to play all their guys here on Tuesday, and they'll probably rest players on Wednesday against the Clippers back-to-back. They did all that knowing that they could play most, if not everybody, on Tuesday, beat the Lakers out of the playoffs, and clinch 63 wins at the same time. That's what's at stake. It is the rivalry. It is back in full effect. It is still not out of the question that this could be the Suns' first-round opponent. A lot would have to go right for the Lakers, but that's not out of the realm of possibility. And that's all on the table. The swimming in the pool, the first round last year, years of history before that, Kobe, Magic Johnson, these teams have a history. We all know that. Phoenix and LA have a rivalry. We are the little brothers here in the Valley, but that all can change if the Suns continue to dominate this. And man, would it be a sweet, sweet addition to that story for the Suns to host the Lakers, whose season is on the brink, blow that season up, and clinch a franchise record 63 wins. I clearly am excited about it because I can't stop talking about it. Can't stop smiling. That is all what is going on tomorrow night at Footprint Center. Tonight for most of you listening. 7:30 NBA TV. I'll be right here with you guys post-game to recap it as well. But that'll do it for today, guys. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen today and every day. We'll be back tomorrow, as I just said. Now, go make Locked On NBA your second listen to get caught up on everything you might have missed around the association on Monday night.